Hi, shalom. Uh, Caroline Glick here from my office studio. It's been a long day. We woke up this morning, the morning of Shabbat and Simchat Torah. Um, I don't know, around 7 o'clock, 7:30, to the sounds uh, of air raid sirens, not in our town of Efrat, but in surrounding areas. I could hear it from my window, and I woke up my husband. And then we were hearing booms of interceptions or falls, I don't know. And then I asked him whether he thought we should wake up the kids. And, we were debating about it. We didn't have to debate long because the air raid sirens came here in Efrat. And we woke them up and went down to here. This is where I'm recording from. My office is also the bomb shelter in our home. At any rate, it was around that time that I said, we have to find out what's going on. And we discovered that Israel was under attack, that Hamas invaded southern Israel. 15 communities in southern Israel had been penetrated. And terrible, terrible stories of massacres throughout the south, and taking up hostages to Gaza and in the towns of the south. Right now, I think many hours later, there are still at least two communities, the kibbutz Be'eri and the town of Ofakim, where they still have active hostage situations in Israel. At any rate, as I speak to you at 10:34 at night on Saturday night in Israel, the reports are of 300 dead Israelis who were murdered by Hamas today. We don't have exact numbers. Many, many, many of them children, women, and soldiers who were murdered in their homes, on the streets, everywhere they were found. Many taken, as I said, hostage. Over 1,200 wounded. I think 300 of them in critical condition or on the verge of death. We've never had a day like this in Israeli history. Prime Minister Netanyahu just spoke of it on a televised speech, just broadcast. I was waiting to start this broadcast until after he finished his remarks, and he pledged to the people of Israel that we will avenge our dead, and that we will find every single one of the murderers and kill them. All the eyes are also not only on the south and what's happening, but also in the north and what's happening there. We've already had a couple of Hezbollah probes of the border. We've had them really for the past couple of months. Hezbollah leader Nasrallah met with the head of Hamas, I think last week, Saib Barouri. So this is clearly coordinated with them and with Iran. Islamic Jihad, another Iranian proxy in Gaza, is also acting in full partnership with Hamas here. So this is an Iranian coordinated strike by its terror proxy armies. So everybody's looking to the north, and we should be very concerned about that, because already back in 2006, people forget, but the opening volleys of what became known as the Second Lebanon War were actually in Gaza, with the abduction of Gilad Shalit and the attack on his tank crew. They killed the rest of his tank crew, and he was taken hostage to Gaza. And then we suffered a very large bombardment from Gaza that went on into the war with Lebanon, but it was about 2 weeks after the war began in Gaza that then Hezbollah opened the front on us by attacking an IDF position across the border fence with Lebanon. So this is a very, very high likelihood. President Biden, alluded to that this evening in his remarks when he warned anybody who, is an enemy of Israel and is looking at this right now away from attacking Israel. I don't know how convincing Biden's remarks will be, but it's certainly a major, major concern here in Israel that this is the opening of multi-front war. Mohammed Deif, the Hamas terror commander in Gaza, called for Arab Israelis to join forces as well, and there's good reason to fear that they will. among other reasons, because over the past year, the IDF and the Bennett-Lapid God's government first foolishly allowed 18,000 Gazans to work in Israel every day. And those people, even if they're over 40, doesn't mean that they're not completely mobilized, as is the entire society of Gaza under Hamas rule, for the jihad against Israel. And we can only imagine the coordination and the granular level of coordination that went on between the 18,000 Gazans who came into Israel every day and Israeli Arabs in the Negev and beyond. So that's a major concern. And I just, laying out these things right now, and I think it's worth making a couple of observations. The first observation is just sort of a meta-observation, which is that, and it also speaks to the strategic goals that Israel needs to adopt here. In earlier statements and earlier rounds of warfare with Hamas over the years, Netanyahu and our prime minister and others have said that essentially we're carrying out an experiment to see, whether it's possible to live side by side with the Hamas regime in Gaza. And of course, this morning that experiment, it had never really succeeded, and this morning it failed completely, and it was shown to have failed. We cannot coexist with the Hamas regime in Gaza any longer, not for a moment longer. And the goal of this war, which Israel declared following this morning's invasion, must be to obliterate Hamas as a regime and as an active terrorist organization in Gaza. And that means physical obliteration of Hamas. Physical obliteration means killing its terrorists, killing its commanders, killing everybody involved in the war-making machine that revels sadistically in the mass murder of Jews. We cannot allow this to continue. We cannot allow this to proceed. We cannot allow this to continue to gather force, and we can't allow it to be weakened, but only rebuild its strength with the support of the international community. We cannot allow this to stand. This regime must be obliterated physically. And Netanyahu rightly said that the civilians in Gaza need to leave. They need to leave because, and anybody who cares about the humanitarian situation in Gaza has to understand that the civilians need to get out of there. And anybody who cares about the Palestinians in Gaza should be providing refuge to the Palestinian civilians in Gaza, because if they value them, then they should save them, and they should be pulled out of Gaza. Because again, this experiment that we dallied with, that we entertained ourselves with, has completely failed. Another thing that has failed is the concept of deterrence. We are led by military leaders and have been for a couple of decades who have a concept of deterrence that has nothing to do with defeating the enemy. And it's an imaginary deterrence. You don't get deterrence by killing one or another terrorist when you're dealing with a regime that's dedicated by its own covenant and by its jihadist belief system. It's completely dedicated to your physical obliteration. You can't achieve deterrence because as long as it continues to exist in any sort of way, it will continue to seek your annihilation, because that's what it exists to do. And so we can't deter Hamas. The deterrence model with Hamas doesn't work. Another model that failed, as sort of stemming from the deterrence model and the coexistence model, is the model that we could just protect ourselves and hide behind a big fence or a big wall or missile defenses, which were in many cases unsuccessful, both in intercepting missiles and also in alerting civilian populations to incoming missiles, which caused increased death and injury among Israeli civilians because the sirens didn't work. There's a lot of chatter, and it seems reasonable to me to assume that in addition to the physical attack, that we may very well be under cyber attack of some force. And so the idea of having static defenses against a dynamic enemy that's constantly moving and constantly probing and constantly updating its weapons. That doesn't work. Our defenses were completely overwhelmed in the early stages. None of them worked. The fence was overrun by tractors. Our border bases were overrun, and we lost a lot of men fighting to get them back, which apparently we have, including the division command post for the Gaza division in Kibbutz Ram, according to the news reports that we've been watching this evening. So you cannot have static defenses against a dynamic enemy that exists in order to annihilate you. That's gone out the window. And then finally, really, when you look at the whole security doctrine, such as it is, of the Israeli left, I mean, we've seen a 360-degree destruction of all aspects of that doctrine. Unilateral withdrawal from Gaza brought Hamas to power. Unilateral withdrawal from Lebanon brought Hezbollah to power throughout Lebanon. We cannot do that. We cannot hide. The shields, as I said, that doesn't work. Even the progressive policies that they've been, due to, our legal fraternity, been pushing into the IDF, including introduction of women to the main line, the frontline combat units. I think that's failed. And the fears that it may have had something to do with readiness need to be looked in seriously, and the entire concept of deployment of women to frontline units needs to be reconsidered. And a lot of the other policies, the progressive policies that have been inculcated into the IDF, including preferring the civilian lives on the enemy's side to the lives of our soldiers, needs to be abandoned. It's immoral, and it's strategically insane. We've started to see some of the pictures of the Israeli victims, and I imagine that as we see more, it's going to become even more horrific. They've been hidden. Their identities haven't been exposed. The number of the hostages in Gaza haven't been revealed, except by Arab sources. But the pictures are horrific. The victims are children. And Prime Minister Netanyahu, in his remarks a few minutes ago, said, I quoted the Jewish poet, one of the most important Zionist poets of the 20th century, Chaim Nachman Bialik, who wrote in his very famous poem on slaughter that the devil has not invented the blood revenge of a child. And with that, he pledged that Israel would defeat our enemies and win this horrible war. And it's going to be very difficult. There are obviously a lot of questions that need to be asked and need to be answered in order both to win this war and moving forward. Some of them can wait until after the war, but one that really can't is how an intelligence and operational failure of this magnitude occurred, because we have to correct it now. And we'll just have to see. But in the meantime, we're pouring troops down to the south. I think 3 or 4 divisions are going down there, have been there here in Efrat, where I live. Troops have been mobilized all day long. They came into synagogue this morning and called up people. They met people at their houses, called them up. And we've just had this convoy of private cars and military vehicles in Efrat throughout the day of men and women going to their units for call-up. And we have to understand that we can't accept a ceasefire. We can't accept negotiating the release of terrorists for our children and women who are in Gaza. and for the bodies of our soldiers and civilians that have been also seized to Gaza. This isn't a time for negotiating a ceasefire. They broke every single rule that we thought we had agreed to with them. There is no rule book anymore. There is no game plan that's been agreed to by both sides. And we have to fight for our country. We have to fight for our people. We have to fight for our communities. And we have to fight for our future. I was interviewed earlier this evening by Indian television. And one of the questions that the interviewer asked me was, what do you think the economic cost of this war is going to be? And what about the diplomatic cost? And Netanyahu also spoke to the need for a diplomatic maneuver room, and that we're getting it with support from various world leaders, first and foremost President Biden, but also French leader Emmanuel Macron and others. And so my response to the interviewer in India was, we have to pay whatever price we have to pay. An economy can be rebuilt, and whatever the diplomatic cost is almost beside the point. I mean, I don't think many people in Israel care that much, and I don't think that we should care that much, of course, except for, our idiots on the left-wing media. But we're fighting for our lives, and we're fighting for our communities, and we're fighting for our country. And we have to win this war. We don't have any choice. So, and one last thought on that. I guess maybe I should keep my mouth shut, but I won't, which is that I saw a statement by the Saudi government that blamed Israel for provocations against the Palestinians or something like that for this wanton act of mass aggression. And to the extent that that was a real statement by the Saudi government, all I can say is forget giving peace a chance. Because any country that can't understand what we're going through here doesn't want peace with us. So I hope it's not true. But Israel's existence and the lives of our people and our children are more important than any piece of paper, more important than a railroad, more important than anything. And again, rebuilding is for tomorrow. Today was for fighting to victory. So I'm Yisrael Chai. Thanks for watching.